Hi, Sandra.
Good evening, Em. How are you today?
Good. Well, a little bit tired. It's been an interesting week, but it's evening like these that just get me re-energized and excited because we're on to something special, aren't we?
We are, and you energized is the right word actually, because I was feeling a little tired myself, and I thought I'm catching up with Em tonight. I'm going to get all the energy I need, and we're going to have a great conversation, and we're going to get all fired up about what we're doing, which is it is so exciting and energizing. Which I have no words, which is not like me.
Do you know what this also reminds me of? There's someone who spoke about passion and discipline, that if you're passionate about something, it forces you to be disciplined towards other areas of life. So, I think this is this is 7 o'clock, and we're having a conversation where we could be having a glass of wine, watching TV, relaxing after a long day of work because you work full time, and I'm running a business. So it's like, but we know this is important. So we sit here and we get it done.
We do, and it's a reward in itself. Honestly, it is.
Mm, mm. So tell me about why you are involved in, Empowered Voices Amplified, the podcast, and Skilled Migrant Professionals, the magazine, as chief editor.
Why am I involved? Well, I guess it was a an accidental, or like serendipitous, shall we say, a happy accident, which is what I used to call my dog. That was her name, Serendipity. And it's just about connections and friendships and wanting to be more than I am, maybe do more than I am, stretch myself to use all of my capabilities. Even though I work full time, you fall into routines. The work that you're doing is not always as meaningful as you'd like, but it pays the bills. And so we find ourselves on that treadmill. So I'm feeling very energized and focused about being a part of the podcast. I'm meeting so many new people and hearing so many wonderful stories that I'm very much looking forward to sharing with everybody out there, and just becoming part of something a little bit bigger. And same with the magazine. I write corporate communications day in, day out. They also have a certain amount of sameness, but when you're actually putting down someone's story or writing tips to help them become more successful at what they're doing, it's got a meaning to it that maybe the day-to-day work doesn't have.
I love that. I love that.
What about you? What's driving you to become involved in this project?
Oh, oof. First of all, I think when I thought about this project in particular, I had all the reasons to say no to it because there's so much going on. You would know I started my own consulting company, and I've really been blessed and really lucky that it kicked off really, really well. And I've got some amazing clients, and that's keeping me really busy. And when this came along, I thought, oh, I don't think it's the right time. But you know how passionate I am about storytelling. And the magazine, Skilled Migrant Professionals magazine, to me was an avenue to tell stories that we don't really hear or see in mainstream media. And I thought, what an opportunity, what an opportunity. We know a lot of people that are doing incredible things in their communities, at work, with friends, with anything they're doing is absolutely amazing. And I think the bravery of most people to move from their countries to a whole new country, that in itself to me is an incredible story to tell. So Skilled Migrant Professionals magazine does that, and I align to it as a migrant myself. The podcast, I mean, Empowered Voices Amplified. Come on. Talking to people that are empowered. And, like you've said, we've spoken to some incredible people over the last few weeks. Again, really grateful that people took part of their evenings to talk to us. They could have been with family, they could have been doing something else. But again, there are people that understand our vision, understand what we're trying to do, and they know that their stories and the empowerment that they have is something that they can impart to everyone else. With each story, there's something in there that can inspire, motivate, and just get people being kinder and just being nicer to each other. So, those two for me are the reasons why we're sitting here at this time of the day.
Absolutely. And you made a point about opportunities and when they come along. How often are opportunities really convenient when you think about it? But if they're the right opportunity and they're worthwhile, you make the time and you pay you back in fulfillment, in other
Mm,
rewards that you didn't anticipate. It's not about money. It's not about needing to make ends meet. It's actually, I'm not a spiritual person. I know you are, but so you'll get this is feeding your soul, feeding that
yes.
part of you that nobody else sees very often and we don't give enough attention to. We don't nurture that part of ourselves because we're
Mm,
always so busy doing other things. So when you grab that opportunity, or it grabs you, I suppose maybe is a different way of putting it. I was just going to say the other thing about opportunities is all of us who come to this country are looking for opportunities. And sometimes it's what they thought it was going to be and other times it's not. So it's exciting to explore that.
I have to be very honest and say the only reason as well that I agreed to work on this project, because it's a massive project, right? It's a massive project. And the reason why I agreed was because I'm surrounded and, I considered who can be in my tribe, and who can help me bring this vision to life. Because, that's all it was at the beginning. It was a dream. It was a dream. And I knew I couldn't do this by myself. So asking you and you agreeing, with everything else on your plate and agreeing to sacrifice, your time during the week and during the weekends just blew me away. So that was that was a very good thing, having you as chief editor and having Stacey, as the art director. Stacey has years and years of experience in brand and graphic design, and then having Orade as well as our chief partner, chief partner person has just, again, it's an incredible team. It's an incredible team. And in as much as there's so much to do because we're working on this together, it lightens the burdens a little bit. And we have a little bit of fun as well along the way, don't we?
Just a little bit of fun. Wait till you see some photos that we took a few weeks ago. We were having lots of fun.
Yes, take me back. Take me back. Oh, so Sandra, you've told me the story so many times, but I love hearing it. Tell me about your story when you came into Australia, how you came into Australia, and your first impressions of Australia.
Okay, well, like a lot of people, I came as a child. So for me, it wasn't a conscious decision to come. I just came with mum and dad. We were £10 tourists or £10 poms. So we came from the north of England in the early 70s. So there was mum and dad and three children under 5, 6. I think my sister had
Oh,
just turned 6. I was
fun.
5. My little brother was a toddler, and we jumped on. We were lucky we didn't have the 6 week ship uh, ocean journey. We actually got to ride on a Boeing 747, which my dad was very
Oh,
chuffed about. And we flew on Qantas. And yeah, we had family who lived in rural Queensland. So I don't quite recall arriving in Brisbane as such. I was probably unconscious from the 26-hour journey. But we moved out to the South Burnett region. And what I remember, my very first impression of leaving home in November, so it was dark at 3 or 4 in the afternoon and
mm,
cold and always wet. And even though it was sunny, you'd always have a cold breeze on you, even in summer. And so my first impression was the wind was blowing. It was blowing hard and it was hot. It was like, oh my gosh, this is a new country. And it just blew me away, the fact that we'd come to somewhere warm and this was it. I presume that was one of the reasons my parents came as well. They came for opportunity. They came to find work, to have a better life for their kids. And it's worked well. And they're both still alive. Dad's just turned 85. Mum's celebrating her 80th next year. They've retired by the seaside. So, you know, from factory workers from the north of England to have had a really comfortable life, uneventful, but I never complain about an uneventful life. They did their eventfulness by jumping on a plane, like you said earlier, and
Yes.
coming over here. And I'm sure there were more trials and tribulations than we understood as children, but I understand them much more now as an adult. And I'm very grateful that they took that trip. And so I did my growing up in a little town called Wondai in the South Burnett. Made some friends, started working a little bit, but really the opportunities weren't great out there. So we eventually, the whole family moved to Brisbane, and we've pretty much been here ever since. And it's been a good move.
Yeah. I'm glad you moved to Brisbane
So am I.
because we got to meet and work
Very true.
together.
So, what brought Magnus and family? Did you come straight to Brisbane? I don't recall you telling me the full story about your move.
Yeah, our story is interesting because we didn't tell a lot of people actually when we're leaving Zimbabwe that we're coming here, but the few people that we told were just shocked because we had a very good and comfortable life in Zimbabwe. We did fairly well. I was a senior leader at a multi-million, dollar company, had millions of marketing dollars to spend.
Oh my gosh, luxury.
And working high level, high stakes, it was I was in my element, and we just had a baby, and life was really good. Life was good. Teach, my husband, has an IT background, infrastructure and networking and engineering. That's sort of his interest, and he always is looking for something more challenging, and just doing a bit of research. He wanted us to explore other areas. We've always traveled. And I think last time when you went to Spain, I was so excited because I started recalling everything that I had done when we visited Spain. So we'd always been a traveling family, and we'd been to lots of different places, but we'd never been to Australia. So when we're thinking of leaving Zimbabwe, you'd think naturally we think of going to the countries we've been to before, whether it's England or, if it's Spain or something else, the US, but no, it had to be Australia. And that was just based on a lot of research that we did and the interests that, a lot of things in Australia really align to a lot from Zimbabwe. So we thought, oh, okay, let's move. The process itself took about 6 months, I think, because there's a lot of paperwork to be submitted. There are tests you have to do. We even had to do an English test. I mean, I've got views about that, but that's okay.
I bet you do.
I've given that feedback to the right people. So writing and listening, like it's incredible. It's yeah. And then, English test, all those, and then having to prove experience, all of that. Like it's a lot of work. Anyway, we did all of that. Teacher's very meticulous. So that was not a problem for him. And, thank God he could work on all of that. He was running his own business at the time. And after all the submissions, you then have to wait. And for us, the whole process, the waiting, and then the phone call to say we'd gotten our permanent residence took about 6 months. And when we got the news, I think it was in October or November, and we thought, well, because I think you have to travel within 12 months or something, or you lose your residency. And we thought, we can always go any other time. And we're like, but why do we want to wait? Let's just go. Let's just go. And so Teach moved first in January while I served notice at where I was employed. And then we moved in March, so 2 months apart, which were really hard because we'd never been apart before. So moved to Australia, and I remember my first impression was, oh my gosh, everyone is so lovely. Everyone is so lovely at immigration, as I was walking towards the gates, and these two men just jumped up and helped me with my bags. And I was like, okay, I'm leaving, so it's cool. People can help me with my bags. They say don't let anyone touch your bags.
Mm.
but they were in uniform, so so that was okay. They were wearing uniform. Anyway, they jumped up, they helped me with the bags, and as we walked out, there was a man, our name written, and I was like, oh my gosh, this place is amazing. And then the heat.
Yes.
And I thought, what is happening? What is happening? Got into this lovely car. We've always traveled. We've always used Emirates, like Qantas. I started knowing about Qantas and how big it is in Australia, but everywhere else for us, it had always been Emirates or British Airways.
Mm.
So, then getting to know, I think I had jet lag for, I was sleeping, waking up and sleeping for a good 4 days, and then eventually recovered. And yeah, since then, it was then looking for a job. I mean, that's a whole story in itself, but it's been an incredible 7 years. I've made friends. I've made some really, like, I've got a strong tribe of people around me. I've had great jobs where I've made amazing friends, and now running my own business. Hello, Australia.
That is an amazing journey. And I think people attract to them what they deserve. And you have attracted some good friendships. And I
Oh,
think you've glossed over some of your career journey hasn't been as ideal as
yeah.
you would like. And you will be sharing stories, no doubt, in the next few months. Or years, depending on how we go with this project, of some of the trials and tribulations. And some of those stories will be familiar to a lot of people. And
Mm-hmm.
some are going to be a little bit eye-opening, I would imagine, because especially the people who are Aussies like a fair go, like to think that they do give everyone. I'm not going to get all heavy on you here, but I think sometimes we take for granted what we have here, and I say
Mm,
we as a Australianized person who's been here. It's for most of my life,
yeah.
um, but I am conscious of the difference of experience that some people have when they come to Australia.
Mm,
So they are interesting to explore with no other agenda than just to do that, just to make people think a little bit more. As you said earlier, get to know people. You tend to fear what you don't know or assume the worst about what you don't know. So that's another thing that we're doing with both the podcast and the magazine is just opening up people's horizons a little bit
mm,
to read stories and hear about other people's experiences, get to
mm,
know them a little bit better. But a lot of the stories are the same no matter where you've come from. Your
mm.
struggles are the same, and
Yes.
it's going to be interesting to share that.
And while
Mm.
we are on that,
Yes.
it reminded me of, I mean, we will have, just to let our listeners know, we will have a conversation around employment, first job, what that looked like for me and a whole lot of other people. So there will be a discussion about that. But today is about empowerment and how we are just really pumped for this podcast and the magazine. And I have to share this one because it is something I'm sure a lot of people can relate to, especially, brown and black women. I'm not sure about the men because usually men naturally they just don't think too deeply about some of these things. But as women, we're very conscious of people staring at us. And I remember I'd gone out with a mutual friend of ours, and we both love bagels, and we're sitting in this amazing bagel shop, and we were having our bagels and coffee. And there was this woman who kept staring at me, like she could not take her eyes off me. And it got really uncomfortable. It was a white woman, and I felt a little bit uncomfortable. And I said to Anne, oh my gosh, there we go again. Someone else is staring at me. And she's like, what are you talking about? And I said, oh, everywhere that I go, where I am the only black woman in the room, or, in a cafe or a restaurant, everyone's just staring at me. And I wonder why are they staring at me? It's just like, oh, because you're gorgeous. Like,
This is true. Anne is a
and
wise woman.
but it reset my mindset. It made me think, why is my assumption that they are looking at me in a negative way? Why? It could be curiosity. It could be, I mean, staring is rude, don't get me wrong, but it could be a lot of other things. And we explored this a little bit more in Lost in Translation. But it just reminded me, and if anyone else has faced something like that, just, first thought shouldn't be, oh my gosh, it should be yes, you know, because people are naturally curious and we don't know, we're not mind readers, we don't know what people are thinking of. So think positively when people stare.
Absolutely.
That's our empowerment nugget for this for
That's
this
the thought of the
episode.
day. I guess interestingly, a little bit related to that is the fact that people do get so self conscious. And I know when let's say when you're a teenager, when I was a teenager, I was so shy, so self conscious. And I would
What?
walk in, yeah, I know, who knew? Um, and if I walked into a room, I thought everyone was staring at me, and I would turn beetroot red, which didn't help when you had bright red hair back in those days. And do you know the only thing that's worse than that is walking into a room and no one even looks at you. Being in a
Mm,
place, a workplace or a classroom, and no one gives you any attention. So it's about reframing. Is at least if they're looking at you, you matter. They've
mm.
noticed you. So if no one ever acknowledges you or says good morning as you walk through the door and things like that, that's a whole different lot of framework you're going to have to come up with. But
I love
there's
that.
worse things. There's worse things, and as you mature, you stop
Mm.
turning bright red when people look at you, and start getting a little bit cranky when they don't look at you. If you've gone to a bit of trouble,
I love that perspective as well. Absolutely love that perspective. And again, this is why we're doing this. It's Empowered Voices Amplified, and we will be, we are the co-hosts of the show, Em and Sandra, and we can't wait to share stories with you. We've got got an amazing lineup of people who are either migrants or children of migrants, or people who are doing incredible things in our communities, because we all need that little bit of empowerment, don't we? And it's great to get it from people that are real. It's not PR, it's nothing related. It's people being authentic and sharing vulnerable pieces of themselves in the hope that it helps other people. So, really
absolutely.
excited.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you've got any feedback or anything that you'd like us to discuss, send us an email and we will respond to you.
Fantastic. And may I say from this is probably the most you're going to hear Em and I speaking, because future podcasts are going
Yes.
to be all about our guests, and we'll just light the fire under them and let them go, and we'll just see where those conversations go. So if you're keen to see where we can take some conversations, please tune in and see where we can head at. Super. Cut that. See where we can land.
We're not cutting it out.
I
This
was doing
is
so well.
this is like the what's that thing you tried to teach me and I just couldn't say it? Fair
Fair suck of the
something?
salve.
Fair
Suck
suck of
of the
fair
salve.
fair oh my gosh. Okay. Say it
I
again.
come out.
I've
I
got
come
this.
out with all these Aussie things. But
Say it again. I can say it. I can do it.
fair suck of the salve.
Fair suck of this. Oh no, I'm done. Bye bye. Bye, Sandra.
Yeah, just go fair go.
Fair go.
Fair
Yeah.
go.
I've got issues with that as well. But yes, fair go. That I can say. That I can say. Oh,
Oh dear.
thank you, Sandra, for hanging out with me
Oh,
for
thank
these
you.
last few minutes. And I will see you on the other side.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.